Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Motorcycle Rewind, and today we're with 90s? Yeah, on the left we have a 1964 Honda C200 90, and to the right a 1966 Honda S90. Are all 90s created equal? We'll find out. GoPro, stop recording. Okay guys, so in this episode we're going to talk about the differences between a 1964 Honda C200 and an S90, 1966 Honda S90. S90 came out in 64, same year this one was. The model for C200 started in 1963 and went to 1966, I believe. So the C200 was classified as a touring motorcycle. This was their touring motorcycle, and it's crazy because who would tour on a 90cc motorcycle? But that's what it was, right? That's how they looked at it. This one, you can obviously see they're both stamped steel frames. This one is different, and when we look at it, this frame, the fender is integrated into it. You can see there's a seam right here where it's welded together. So the frame is stamped steel all the way through to the tail of the fender. So that's one thing when you look at this motorcycle. It's because of that, that's the way the Dreams were made. So that's the way they did it. That's the way they did this one, just smaller, scaled it down. This engine on the C200 is a pushrod engine. Whereas when we get to the other one, the S90, it's a overhead cam engine. So looking at it just a little differently, you can see there are some similarities in styling. This shared more, the C200 shared more with the Honda Super Cub and the Cub than they did with the S90, because they're basically the same frame. When you look at them, just a little different seat styling. Every front end's the same on the Cub. Everything is a little bit closer to that, except one's a step through. When you look at this guy, you go from having black plastic front fender to having metal painted front fenders and telescoping forks. Bigger front wheels from 17 to 18s. You can see it looking at these two side by side. This one seems so much smaller. So this was basically the same Speedo headlight bucket that was on the Cubs. This one we start to venture off, and look, the styling is just even different. This one is a domestic, a Japanese market motorcycle. So this was the domestic bike, so things are going to be a little different. You made the gauges may be a little different than what they were for the US market, meaning these turn signals required in Japan, not required at this time in the US. So that's why that wasn't there. So again, we mentioned an overhead cam engine, basically the same carburetor. I think they're probably pretty similar. This one maybe a little bit bigger. This back here starts to lean more towards Super Hawk with when you get into to that. Look at the length of these shocks compared to the length of these. It's just a different beast all the way around. Although they do share the same chain guard, right, when you look at it. So it's, some of the things are there, some of them aren't. This one is super cool, like I mentioned already, domestic market. Look at that. The sticker right there, which is pretty awesome, on the VIN number, right there by the VIN number. This one has had a partial restoration over the years, so it's kind of interesting when it's a friend of mine's motorcycle, just being able to see it. Things are just a little different, but kind of the same, but just you can tell they're related, right? When you look at them, they're from the same family. They're brothers, if you will, from the same family, same parents, just a little different. This one was considered a sport, whereas this one is considered a touring. Now, wait for this. Now, although this is not a 90, this is a 50, but all you do is change the engine. Everything else stays the same. Not a lot of difference between the the 50 and the 90, although except for the engine, right? It doesn't get bigger, it doesn't do anything like that. So are all 90s created equal? No, they're all different. But look at, this is what astounds me, is you can see Honda's plan right behind me. They were totally going after a completely different demographic than what existed before. All of these are from the 60s. They were changing the face of motorcycling. This is where you meet the nicest people on a Honda came from. Because look how approachable all three of these are. And that's what's astounding to me, that they had the foresight and the vision to be able to see further down the road. They were playing chess and everybody else was playing checkers. And I'm sure that when Honda came out with this guy, the meeting at the board of directors for Harley Davidson, they laughed at it. You had to believe it. Now, I'm not saying this is the best motorcycle in the world, but it changed history, right? That they had to laugh at it because no way could it compete with the Harley Davidson. They weren't trying to compete with it. They were going after the people that weren't buying them. Harley Davidson had a nip. Look at it this way. Harley Davidson had their market, and they were going to keep their market. Honda was going after everybody else. Everybody else. Not people that were already riding motorcycles. They were going after people that weren't riding motorcycles. And you can see it right here. You can see their evil plan. And why not? You know, I love that. I love it when you look at it, and then they leapfrogged them once the 1969 came and they released the CB750. They were so far ahead of them that people they couldn't catch up because they started with these little guys. Now they had other motorcycles at the time. At this time, they still had the CB450, but it wasn't getting the reviews. It wasn't loved or beloved. Right, that was the Black Bomber. It wasn't getting that. The Dream, the Super Hawk, and the Scrambler were all doing well, but they grew their future customers with these guys because they made it okay for parents to say yes to a motorcycle, and they got it for their 15, 16-year-old kid, and that kid became a Honda customer forever. It's crazy the way it worked. But they were so far ahead of everybody else in their thinking, not just in their design and their ability to do that, but in the way they chose to market it. I love it. So we can see right here, not all 90s are created equal, even if one is just, this 50 identifies as a 90 for this example. But guys, this was fun. I love sharing these things. I love these small displacement motorcycles. And I've shared this before. I love it for the freedom that it gave to kids at the time, mainly because I didn't get to have one. My mother was anti-motorcycles. I'm the youngest of 4 boys. So if my older brothers didn't get it, there's no way I was going to get it. So she didn't ask for much. So we just didn't do it, right? So she said, hey, don't do it. And we said, yes, ma'am. And that was the difference. If I would have had one of these, it would have fundamentally changed my life, right? The freedom that you'd have, that you were afforded without having to do cardio. It's a bicycle that just goes 40 miles an hour. Come on now. Come on. You can put a buddy on the back and we can go wherever we want. That's where we are. And that's I think, where Honda really changed the game with these small displacement motorcycles. They went after people that other motorcycle manufacturers chose not to, and they changed the world. It's awesome. Guys, thanks for watching yet another episode of Motorcycle Rewind, and do me a favor, like, tag, share, and follow us on Instagram at Motorcycle Rewind, and go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Thanks again, guys, and have a great day.